We want to talk about some special work that Dick has done for a lot of the boys and girls out there who are collectors. We're talking about baseball cards.
1981 was a watershed year. It was the end of Topps' monopoly, and it was the beginning of the baseball card explosion. There was baseball card stores opening up in every little town across the United States. And then they started having these card conventions. It exploded.
It was a time that you could not repeat because timing was everything. In 1980, Fleer had sued Topps, and the courts determined that Topps had a monopoly and that there would be 3 baseball card companies. It would be Topps, Fleer, and Donruss, which was a bubblegum company in Memphis, Tennessee.
President of the company is a guy named Stuart Lyman. I called him and I told him I'm doing this story about this lawsuit and you guys getting into the baseball card business. He says, yeah, we're really happy to be in the baseball card business, but we have only one problem. I said, what's that? He says, we don't know anything about baseball. Do you know anybody who knows anything about baseball who might be able to help us out down here? I said, as a matter of fact, I do know someone. He said, who's that? I said, me. And he hired me to be the major domo for Donruss baseball cards. I said, we have to do things with our set that's going to separate us from Topps and Fleer. And I have a couple of ideas. One of my ideas was Dick Perez. This will really set us apart because Dick Perez is becoming a pretty well-known artist now, and he could be ours.
It was fortuity that a new card company came into existence and didn't know what they were going to do. And Frank and I were there to offer them a solution.
One of the things that the courts had determined was that while Topps could still use confectionery product, they could use their bubble gum in their packs, Fleer and Donruss had to have a product of value, but it could not be a confectionery product. They said, well, maybe we could do some kind of a baseball puzzle. Frank decided to play on his relationship with the Baseball Hall of Fame. And he said we could have Dick do a portrait of a Hall of Famer, and we could have the Hall of Fame logo on that, which would create a royalty for the Hall, which would give the puzzle a value. And the puzzles were created.
He went to Donruss and said, listen, how would you feel about being the official baseball card of the Hall of Fame? Topps was not it. Fleer's wasn't it. Donruss was it.
As Frank and I were coming back in the car, I said, you know, there's a phrase here that you have in this contract. This is an escalating royalty. The Hall's going to get more the more they sell. I said, that's okay if we're only doing 1 to 5 million. But has anybody figured out what happens when they sell 10 million and how much the Hall's going to get? And Frank said, well, so far you're the only one who's noticed that phrase. So let's hope Donruss hasn't paid attention. And they didn't.